Black single dad saw everyone ignore the CEO's deaf twins. He walked up and signed, "Hello." At the grand charity gala filled with golden lights and soft music, everyone seemed too busy impressing one another to notice the quiet corner near the dessert table. There sat two little twins, no older than 7, both dressed beautifully in matching white outfits with tiny golden buttons. Their soft blonde curls framed their faces, and their pale blue eyes moved around the room hopefully, trying to catch someone's gaze. But no one looked back. The waiters passed by, the guests laughed and posed for photos, and even the host glanced away awkwardly. People whispered that they were the CEO's children, both deaf since birth. Though everyone respected their father, no one knew how to communicate with his twins, and instead of kindness, they chose avoidance. The twins fidgeted with their fingers, signing quietly to one another, their smiles slowly fading as the night grew colder for them. Then the tall glass doors opened again, and a man walked in. Tall, broad-shouldered, with warm brown skin and tired yet kind eyes. Marcus, a black single father, arrived late, holding the small hand of his young son, Malik. His clothes were simple, not designer like everyone else's, but neat and full of pride. As soon as Marcus spotted the twins sitting alone, something stirred in him. He knew that kind of loneliness. The feeling of being invisible in a room full of people. His son noticed too and tugged on his jacket, asking softly, "Dad, why is nobody talking to them?" Marcus glanced around and saw that every guest carefully avoided the twins' direction. He felt a heavy ache in his chest, remembering his late wife who used to struggle with her hearing aid before cancer took her away. Back then, people used to speak loudly or turn away, as if her silence was an inconvenience. Marcus learned sign language for her, to make her world less lonely, and even after her passing, he never forgot it. Without hesitation, he started walking toward the twins. Heads turned. The laughter dimmed. Some guests whispered, wondering why a man like him, a stranger and not from their world, was approaching the CEO's children. But Marcus didn't care. He gently knelt down before the twins, giving them the same smile he once gave his wife when she couldn't hear him. Slowly, he lifted his hands and began signing. "Hello. Are you two okay?" The twins froze for a moment, their eyes widening in disbelief. Then, the girl's lips curled into the brightest smile and she quickly signed back. "You know, sign?" Marcus nodded, his eyes kind, and replied, "Yes, I learned for someone special." The little boy giggled silently and hugged him tightly, while Marcus's own son joined and tried to copy the signs. The grand hall that once echoed with shallow laughter now stood still, silent, yet filled with something far greater than sound. Connection, kindness, and understanding. The twins looked up at the tall man who had suddenly knelt before them, their big blue eyes filled with surprise and confusion. For a moment, they simply stared, unsure if he was just another adult trying to be polite before walking away. But then Marcus smiled, the kind of smile that reached his eyes and felt safe, and slowly, gently, he raised his hands. With careful, practiced movements, he began to sign, "Hello, are you two okay?" The twins froze, their eyes widening in pure disbelief. They had spent so many nights surrounded by people who never understood them, people who avoided eye contact because silence made them uncomfortable. Yet here was this stranger, speaking their language like it was the most natural thing in the world. The little girl blinked rapidly, her lips parting before she shyly signed back, "You know, sign." Her small hands trembled with excitement. Marcus nodded, replying smoothly, "Yes, I learned for someone very special." His hands moved gracefully, his expression soft but clear, every gesture full of warmth. The boy beside her laughed silently, his whole face lighting up. And before Marcus could react, the child threw his arms around him, hugging him tightly. Marcus chuckled, his heart swelling at the innocence of the moment. Across the hall, people had gone quiet. The sound of forks against plates faded. Conversations died mid-sentence. Dozens of guests, dressed in glittering gowns and expensive suits, turned to watch. To them, it looked odd. A stranger kneeling in front of the CEO's twins, signing with them as if they'd known each other forever. Even the servers paused, holding trays mid-air. The air was thick with surprise and a strange kind of reverence. At the far end of the room, the twins' father, Mr. Donovan, the powerful, stoic CEO, stood silently, his sharp gaze fixed on Marcus. No one had ever approached his children like that, not with confidence, not with kindness. People usually tiptoed around them, offering pity instead of connection. But this man, a simple guest who looked nothing like the rest of the crowd, had walked straight to them without hesitation. Marcus's son, Malik, soon joined his father, curious and eager. "Dad, what are you doing?" he whispered. Marcus smiled at him and said softly, "I'm talking to them." "Want to learn?" Malik nodded quickly and Marcus began showing him a few signs. "Friend, thank you, and happy." The twins giggled, delighted to see another kid trying to learn their world. They signed the words back to Malik, who copied clumsily but laughed anyway. In that small circle, 3 children and 1 man created something beautiful. Pure understanding without a single spoken word. The grand hall that had once echoed with meaningless chatter now felt alive in a new way. The twins' silent laughter filled the air louder than any music, and for the first time, everyone watching realized that silence could be the most powerful sound of all. The moment Marcus stood from his crouched position, the air in the hall grew still. From the corner of his eye, he saw movement. The CEO, Mr. Donovan, walking toward them with 2 suited security guards following closely behind. Conversations stopped, and all eyes turned to the approaching man. His expression was unreadable, his sharp features calm but intense. Marcus straightened, his son instinctively moving closer to him. He expected anger, maybe a scolding for approaching the CEO's children without permission. The twins' smiles faded for a second, their small hands tightening together, afraid their father might misunderstand. But when Mr. Donovan reached them, he didn't speak right away. He simply looked at Marcus, then down at his children, his eyes softening as he saw the joy on their faces. Finally, he said in a quiet but firm voice, "You know sign language?" Marcus nodded, his tone humble yet steady. "Yes, sir. My late wife was hard of hearing. We used to sign together. It helped us talk about everything, even when words failed us." Mr. Donovan's gaze dropped to the floor for a moment before returning to Marcus. "You're the first person I've seen speak to them without pity," he admitted. "People either look away or try too hard to be kind. You just treated them like kids." Marcus gave a small smile. "They don't need pity, sir. Just connection. Everyone deserves to be heard, one way or another." The CEO's jaw tightened, not in anger but in emotion. He nodded slightly, then turned to his twins who were still smiling brightly. He signed a few slow words, simple, imperfect, but the twins' faces lit up again. They jumped into his arms, excited that their father was trying. The crowd that had been frozen finally began to move again, whispering softly, their tones no longer judgmental but touched. Mr. Donovan looked back at Marcus and said, "You've taught me something tonight. Please, sit with us." Marcus hesitated, glancing around the room filled with people who clearly didn't expect him to be anywhere near the CEO's table. But Mr. Donovan gestured warmly, insisting. Marcus and Malik followed him, and as they walked, people stepped aside. When they reached the grand table, the twins immediately pulled out chairs for Marcus and his son, giggling as they continued to sign with them. The once stiff atmosphere of the gala shifted completely. Laughter returned, but this time it felt real. The musicians resumed playing, the light seemed softer, and for the first time that evening, everyone noticed not just the power or wealth in the room, but the humanity. Mr. Donovan raised his glass quietly toward Marcus in gratitude, and Marcus nodded back with a smile that said more than words ever could. As the night came to an end, the soft glow of chandeliers dimmed, and the guests began leaving one by one, still whispering about the moment they had witnessed earlier. In the corner of the hall, Marcus knelt once again beside the twins, who were still holding his hands tightly, refusing to let go. Their faces, which had been filled with loneliness hours ago, now glowed with joy and comfort. They signed to him with innocent hope in their eyes. "Will we see you again?" Marcus's heart softened as he smiled, his hands moving gently as he signed back. Always. The boy grinned, while his sister nodded, her tiny eyes filled with tears of happiness. Standing behind them, Mr. Donovan watched silently. For a man known for his strictness and control, his expression that moment was softer than anyone had ever seen. He stepped closer, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder, and said quietly, "I could use someone like you in my company. Someone who understands people, not just profits." Marcus froze, unsure how to respond. He wasn't dressed like the others in expensive suits, and he certainly hadn't come looking for an opportunity. But the tone in Mr. Donovan's voice was sincere, not charity or pity, but genuine respect. "Sir, I don't know what to say," Marcus replied humbly. Mr. Donovan simply smiled and said, "Say yes. The world needs more people like you." Weeks later, Marcus found himself walking through the glass doors of Donovan Enterprises, not as a guest this time, but as part of the company. He had been hired as an inclusion consultant, working to build programs that made the workplace more accessible for employees with disabilities. His job wasn't just about paperwork. It was about changing how people communicated and cared for one another. Every morning, he was greeted by familiar faces. The twins, who often ran through the lobby to his office, carrying drawings for him and his son. Malik would sometimes join them after school, learning new signs, laughing, and teaching his new friends words from his own world. The once cold corporate environment had started to feel warmer, more alive. Employees began learning sign language, weekly sessions were held, and soon, even the CEO could fluently sign entire conversations with his children. The company's motto changed, too, from innovation for the future to connection beyond words. For Marcus, life had come full circle. What began as a single moment of kindness in a crowded hall had turned into a lifelong bridge between two families and an entire community. The twins had found a friend, Mr. Donovan had found understanding, and Marcus had found purpose again. Standing by his office window one afternoon, watching the twins play with Malik in the courtyard below, Marcus smiled to himself. Sometimes the loudest voices aren't heard through sound, but through compassion that touches hearts without a single word spoken.